Welcome back to BBN After Dark, and very excited to finally have some games to talk about. The last couple weeks, obviously, I had a great time talking about the top 50 prospects, and then the week before that, getting a chance to talk about the summer awards. But finally, I feel like the whole purpose for the BBN After Dark show was to really dive in depth on these tournaments where there are so many games going on and so many players playing that even when we were doing BBN and we were doing 25, 30-minute shows, we couldn't get to everything. We couldn't talk about all the stuff we wanted to talk about. So this was really the dream for BBN After Dark, and I'm very excited for our first big tournament BBN After Dark show. And I just want to start by opening up the floor. Start with you, Bernie. What was the number one thing this weekend, whether it be a player or a team, or what was the biggest storyline for you over the course of this weekend?
Yeah, I think I'll take in my opinion, at least the easy way out here. With rookie Jack Kester, he already has 3 home runs this fall. I think we all knew this kid would be good coming in, but just how ready he is for that top team, for that 14 Floyd squad. He's been a mass contributor. I think you could argue he was even possibly a tournament MVP this weekend. It's just how quickly this guy's been able to make an impact.
Yeah, I think he was 100%. I said it in the post-game meeting that I thought he was the tournament MVP. And, it's been tough for rookies to break into that 14U Floyd team over the last couple of years. The roster's just been so good at the top that even when rookies did break into the top team, they were role players. They're sitting on the back of the bench, courtesy running, chasing foul balls. Jack Kester has come in and broken into that starting lineup, and he's threatening people for their jobs. And he come out 3 homers on the weekend, which led the team. Obviously had a huge home run in the championship game that helped out for 14 Floyd to win their tournament. Jack Kester certainly with a monster weekend. How about you, KJ? Again, opening up the floor. What is one thing for you this weekend that really stood out to you?
We always talk about the big bats of the 15U Floyd squad, Landon Nickerson, Ben Combs. We always talk about the big bats, but the pitching staff, how good that pitching staff is. I think they allowed 4 runs all weekend long. You got Andrew Driscoll, Braden King, Andrew Willeret, Logan Eckert, who's always competing for a Cy Young. So I think that pitching staff needs a little bit more recognition for how good they are.
Yeah, I mean it's a stacked staff. And the crazy thing is, if you look at these guys, at least I would say at least a year ago. I mean, Andrew Willeret wasn't necessarily seen as a big pitcher. Andrew Driscoll was seen as a solid pitcher, but not necessarily an ace caliber. Logan Eckert again was just kind of seen as a strike thrower. I mean, these guys had developed into top arms, and this 15 Floyd team is just so tough to beat because their lineup is stacked and they're gonna hit. And I think over the past 6 months or so, they've developed the defensive part of the game and they've just developed arms. I mean, Andrew Willeret, you know, I think over the past like 2 months, he's really started to hit like the Andrew Willeret we've come to know. But his pitching season has been very impressive. I mean, if you have a chance to go look, Andrew Willeret has put together a very nice season on the mound. I mean, a sub 3 ERA, 52 strikeouts, of 29 walks. I mean, he's been, besides maybe Logan Eckert, the most consistent pitcher on this team. So very impressive the season Andrew Willeret's having on the mound. And I agree, KJ. This pitching staff as a whole was very impressive, not just this weekend, but all season long. I want to go ahead and talk about Brennan Nickerson. This is a guy we talked about toward the end of the summer season that, you know, felt like he was finally back to MVP form. Brennan obviously has gone through a couple different injuries. I know he had a wrist injury. He's been fighting through these things that it felt like it's been a little bit since Brennan Nickerson was at a 100%. And I think over the past like 6, 7 weeks, Brennan Nickerson has definitely been at 100%. And you've seen what a healthy Brennan Nickerson does. 3 more home runs this weekend, and he's just been on an absolute tear. He's been the hottest hitter in the Bears over the past 6, 7 weeks, and it did not stop this weekend. He was an absolute monster. So a very impressive weekend for Brendan Nickerson, and that was the one player besides Jack Kester who really stood out to me as just a monster weekend. But let's go ahead and hop into some of our teams, starting with that 14U Floyd squad, Bernie. These guys came out, went 4-0, a very nice win in the championship game. And Bernie, I want to start with you. You mentioned Jack Kester, but how about on the other side of the ball, the pitching and defensive side? You know, it felt like every pitcher that 14U Floyd put out there this weekend was very, very effective. Lucas Wilburn throws a complete game shutout on Saturday, and then Lucas Velchek throws 4 no-hit innings in the championship game on Sunday. Bernie, talk about the two Lucases. I mean, they're so important to this team's success, but Wilburn and Velchek, Bernie, what did you think of their outings this weekend?
I mean, yeah, you always know Willie B's gonna go out there. He's gonna go out there and compete. He's gonna give you a lot of innings, get you deep into games. And then with Velchek, I mean, seriously, if you have not watched this guy watch this guy in real life, you need to make out and watch this guy pitch. I know me and Robbie were joking on Sunday that he has more walks than hits allowed this season. I mean, he is virtually untouchable out there. He went out there in that championship game against a very good opponent in the championship game, and threw I believe 4 no hit innings with a ton of Ks. Only allowed 1 or 2 hits out there. I mean, he is virtually untouchable when he is on when he's in the strike zone.
Yeah, only 2 base runners for Velchek. Just the 2 walks, no hits, 6 Ks on the mound for him. Again, a very impressive outing. And Velchek, I feel like the one thing this team was missing a year ago, even when this team had a very amazing season a year ago, but it felt like all season they really didn't have an ace, a guy that you could give the ball to against any team, any given day, Saturday, Sunday, it didn't matter. A guy you could give the ball to, and he's just going to win the game for you. And you know, I think the offense did their job in the championship game. You know, 8 runs against a good team is very, very solid. But Velchek really, I mean, he put the game away. You know, even I think 14 Floyd didn't have a run in the first 2 or 3 innings. And, you know, this has been a team that if they didn't score early, sometimes they could let games get away from them. But when Velchek's just shutting it down on the other side of the ball, it's like, you know, it just puts so much confidence into this team when they don't have to hit in the first 2 innings and they know their pitching staff's going to keep them into it, that they can explode on later in the game. KJ, I wanted to get your thoughts. 9 home runs from this team this weekend, 7 different players hitting home runs. KJ, I mean, this offense is just so deep. What did you think of the 14 Floyd offense this weekend?
Home runs. You know, I noticed in the championship game, you know, Braden Miller didn't get in the game to the last inning, and he's a guy who can really hit some bombs. So that's how deep this team is. Top to bottom, you got home run threats, and I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me, what was their approach. I mean, top to bottom, they had a great approach of laying off curveballs. The pitcher they faced had a really good breaking ball, and they were laying off of it all day long, and crushing the fastball when they got it. So the approach was great, and obviously, you know, the talent on that team is great as well.
Yeah, I mean, several guys, several guys had very good weekends for this team this weekend. You know, a guy who has been a big storyline on BBN. I feel like at times in his career, he's had a very solid season, but Aaron Noll, I mean, had a very good weekend. He crushed a home run, had a ground rule double, had a big hit in the championship game as well. And then other guys like Lucas Velchek, who we talked about, did it on the mound, did it at the plate as well. We're going to talk about all the guys who hit home runs this weekend, but just top to bottom, this 14 Floyd squad was really, really impressive on the weekend. Let's go ahead and move on to 15U Floyd. KJ, you already talked about the pitching staff, so let's go ahead and talk about the offense. And this is a team that, you know, even with Jack Dalton moving back up to 16U Dalton, it still feels like this lineup is just so deep. I mean, a guy who had a really nice weekend this weekend, who you don't necessarily, you know, consider one of the top dogs on this team, is Andrew Driscoll. He hit well all weekend long, as well as not allowing a hit on the mound and playing unbelievable defense. So it just feels like every time this team needs somebody to step up, they step up. You know, Gunnar Wilson is hitting 600 still on the season. Adam Shockley has been a story all season long. So I'll go ahead and throw this one to you, Bernie. This 15U offense, man, I mean, it just feels like it's so deep, and it really doesn't matter who they put up there. It just feels like every single guy on that team gives good at bats. What do you think of 15U Floyd this weekend?
I mean, yeah, Ben Combsland, Nickerson, Willeret, Ivan Saxon, I think, has put himself in that conversation with the top dogs. Yeah, at the bottom of the order, I mean, you have guys who come out there and, like you said, just come through in big spots. I mean, Logan Eckert, the hitter, has had a very nice season. Gunnar Wilson down there at the bottom of the order has done a good job. Shockley, who I don't think anyone even knew about before the season started, has had a very nice season. Same thing with like Andrew Driscoll. Yeah, they got the top dogs in the bottom of the order, has been contributing.
Yeah, and so this weekend they had 6 guys who hit over 500. Ivan Saxon, Ben Combs, Landon Nickerson, who are the 3 I think everybody, kind of sees as those top caliber hitters. And then you have Andrew Driscoll, who hit 750 with a 1607 OPS, Gunnar Wilson, who hit 750, and Logan Eckert, who hit 600. I mean, it's just this team, it seems like every single weekend they've got guys stepping up and you look across the board, and again, I mentioned Andrew Willerett's had an amazing pitching weekend this weekend. He didn't necessarily hit as good as he normally does this weekend, and the team was still able to make it happen with the bat. And the pitching and defense was just flawless again on the weekend. This team, it's a well-rounded team. I mean, I think they've been called the best team in the Bears this season, and I think it's rightfully so. I mean, this team doesn't have any weaknesses. I think what was a weakness for them last year, being the defense and being the pitching staff, they're strengths for this team now. And obviously the lineup is still there. So 15U Floyd, undefeated so far this fall, and with another fantastic weekend. Let's go ahead and move on to 18U Floyd, who took home their championship going 4-0 this weekend. KJ, want to start with you. This team, feels like after guys graduated from the summer, you get some guys from that Birnstill team. I do feel like this team is kind of still trying to find their identity. Again, with those seniors graduating, but it feels like this team, again, they just find a way. They find a way, even if it's not pretty. I know they won some games that they were down this weekend and ended up coming back and winning. Even when it's not pretty, this team finds a way to win games. KJ, what'd you think of this 18U Floyd team this weekend?
Yeah, they're the team as a whole isn't one of the stronger teams in the Bears, but they have 2 players in Brendan Nickerson and Mac Floyd that I think any team would love to build something around those 2 guys, and those are the big offensive contributors this week. And I know both of them hit home runs, and they have some big time pitchers. I mean, I saw in that championship game, Mac Floyd has been a great pitcher all year. Didn't necessarily have a great outing. Elliot Myers came in relief, didn't necessarily have a great outing. And then another guy stepped up, AJ Siliberto, and he pitched really well in that championship game. So just different pitchers stepping up, different guys coming through for that team. And that's what it's going to take for this team to be really good. Like you said, with all the guys graduating. But you could see multiple different guys step up. I know Rocky Tucker is going to step up in that pitching staff. And he also had a big hit this week, and not known for his offense. He had a big hit. Andrew Engelken pitched well. So different guys stepping up. It seems like it's always a different guy. Like you said, they're not the deepest team, but different guys are stepping up right now, and they have those 2 horses at the top.
Yeah, and KJ, you mentioned it. This weekend in their 4 games, Mac Floyd and Brendan Nickerson, the 2 of them had 40% of the team's RBIs, just the 2 of them, which is insane. I mean, you've got arguably the 2 best hitters in the Bears on this team, and the rest of the team, a lot of solid players here. I mean, AJ Siliberto's having a great year. Clayton Kyer has been a big breakout star for this team. But Bernie, I kind of want to move into a more broad conversation about this team, involving the new guys, the guys who came up from 6U Birnstill. Obviously, you coached all these guys over the course of the summer, but there were 4 guys from 6U Birnstill that played for Floyd this weekend: Andrew Engelken, Fred Smith, Rocky Tucker, and Oliver Saxon. Andrew Engelken had a really nice outing on the mound, did not allow a run. But what do you think over the course of the fall, Bernie, these 4 guys, what do you think each of them could bring to this 8U Floyd squad?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with Andrew Oken, the guy who pitched well this weekend. He's gonna go out there on the mound every time. He's gonna go out there, compete, get you deep into games. He's gonna throw strikes with a lot of different pitches. Gonna keep hitters off balance, and he had a very nice offensive season with my team as well. He's gonna give you. He's not gonna strike out. He's not gonna strike out a ton, but he's gonna give you some power with that bat. Freddie Smith, he's gonna give you a Gold Glove outfield. In my opinion, great base runner. He's gonna do a lot of the little things right, and then with the bat. I think he needs a little bit of confidence here playing on this 18 Floyd team. I know he was nervous going into it, but I think as he gets more bats, as he gets more acclimated, he will become a contributor for that team. And then Rocky Tucker, we obviously have the big arm. I think he will slot in just fine on the mound for that team. He was great all season for me. And then with Oliver Saxon, same kind of thing with Freddie. I mean, he's gonna be a good defender, no matter where you put him. He can play infield and outfield. And then he's one of those guys that Oliver Saxon outworks a lot of guys. He's a very hard worker. Um, he wants to be a very good player. He wants to be put in the big spots in games. So I think just again getting the at bats with the team, I think eventually these guys will start to make their impact.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Rocky Tucker's pitching, Bernie, but I gotta say, I had a chance to talk with Rob after last night, and he was impressed by Rocky Tucker's at bats. Rocky has always been a guy that it felt like there was so much potential in his hitting if he could just put it all together. And I know he did put it all together for at least one swing this weekend. He was only 1 for 6 at the plate, but that one swing where he got all of it, crushed the ball, it ended up being a double. That one swing put enough potential in Rob's head that's something to thrive on. I know he had a lot good things to say about Oliver Saxon, who came up in a big spot in the championship game and got a hit. It wasn't necessarily a hit hard, but it was a big spot, the first real chance for Oliver to really come through, and he's able to come through and get a big hit on that team. But KJ, I want to throw this to you. Between those four guys, Saxon, Ingleton, Fred Smith, and Rocky Tucker, if you had to pick one that you think will have the biggest impact for the 18 Floyd team this fall, who would you say?
I might go with a little bit of a hot take here. I'm going to say Rocky Tucker's going to have the biggest impact. I've seen Rocky firsthand how dominant he can be on the mound. Him and Andrew Ingleton are both good pitchers, but both very different pitchers. Like Bernie said, Ingleton's not going to strike guys out. He's going to use the defense a bunch, but Rocky Tucker can be a very dominant pitcher on the mound, and I think that's really another dominant arm that Rob's looking for. And I think Rocky Tucker has a lot of upside with the bat, and I think playing for a coach like Rob, I think he can get the most out of that bat. And I think Rocky's going to work hard for him, and I've seen him practice. Rocky's worked very, very hard. So it seems like Rocky's taking this a lot more seriously than I think he has a little bit in the past. And he's ready to go, and he's locked in, and I know Rob's a big fan of him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He's locked in, he's dedicated. And I think the question for him, at least for me, the question is going to be, how's he going to handle this mentally? I know Rocky's hard on himself, but Rob's going to push him. Rob's going to try to get the best out of him, and we'll see how Rocky responds. I'm very excited. Let's go ahead and talk about the home runs on the weekend. We had a bunch of different guys hit homers. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and list them all. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on these home runs. So here are all the home runs from the weekend. Over the fence home runs: Diego Buccio, Landon Meyer, Brendan Bast, Aaron Knoll, Joey Burgess, Lucas Velchek, Lucas Wilburn, Jack Kester, again, hit 3, Landon Nickerson, Jack Dalton, Tegan Kreitler, Cannon Cook, the rookie, hit a home run as well. Brendan Nickerson hit 3, and Mac Floyd hit 1. KJ, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts about this list? Maybe the biggest surprise. I think the obvious answer is probably Cannon Cook, who in I believe his first Bear weekend goes ahead and takes one deep. Maybe the most impressive home run you saw. Give me any thoughts you have about this home run list.
The first thing that comes to mind when you're naming those names, I think, 95% of those names you just said are free swing guys. So it might be a little bit of a biased answer, but that's the first thing that comes out of me, all the free swing students in it. But if you're asking me the most impressive home run I saw, I wasn't at many of the games. Obviously, I saw Diego's home run in person. I was a coach. But another home run I saw in person, we keep talking about him. This ball Jack Kester hit in the championship game. It went a mile, and it was high. It was far. Everyone in the stadium knew it was gone, and it was kind of like, after he hit that, there was no way the other team was coming back in that game. He hit it so far. He hit it in such a big spot. So on a 3-0 count too. And for a rookie to have that confidence to swing there, that was a big home run that stuck out to me that I saw.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I listen. I don't know what Jack's former team's philosophy was on 3-0 counts, but it can be freeing as a player when a lot of teams don't let their guys swing 3-0, especially at a big spot in the game as a rookie on the team. So he comes in here and he has the freedom to swing 3-0, and he absolutely mashes this ball. And again, KJ, you never have to worry about the launch angle with Jack Kester. I've already learned that from the last 2 weeks him being here. He hits mile high shots, and the question is how hard he hits them. Because if he gets even a little bit of exit velocity on these balls, they go way out, and he got all of this ball. I thought was very, very impressive. For me, I would say besides that Jack Kester ball, Landon Meyer hit a ball that if you've been to Grand Slam 2, there's the trees in the outfield, and a lot of people hit home runs into those trees. Landon Meyer hit a ball over those trees this weekend. It was, I think, Jack Kester has an argument for sure, but I think Landon Myers might have been the further ball that 14 Floyd hit this weekend. It was an absolute monster shot. Again, that cleared the trees. I don't know if I'd seen something like that. How about you, Bernie? I know you got to see some of these home runs in person, but what is the big thing that stands out for you in this home run list?
I mean, yeah, I feel a little bad because other than aside from my team, I was out watching a lot of 14U Floyd games, and a guy I like talking about a lot is Joey Burgess. I talked about a lot last week on our prospect list, and wasn't the farthest home run hit, but it was the best atmosphere type. Like what I mean by that is he's fairly new to 14U Floyd, and he went at the bat in this game, and the entire dugout is chanting Joey Burgess. And maybe one of the loudest moments of like that dugout on the day, they're all chanting Joey Burgess' name while he's batting, and then he hits a ball out, and it was just great. It was great to watch. Great atmosphere type home run.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Bernie, because it was one of those things, Joey he's brand new to the team for the most part. He's played here and there with 14U Floyd, but this was his first big full weekend with the team. And he's one of those guys that I think everybody kind of respects because he came in, was not very good when he joined the Bears. He was a guy that we liked because of his size and his prospect. We thought he could be a good player, but I think everybody appreciates him because he worked his way up. He didn't complain about being on the bottom team and losing games. Joey Burgess didn't win a game last fall, and he didn't complain about it. And then he comes in and he grinds all winter. He grinds to the gym. He grinds in free swing, and he just takes care of business. And now he gets on the top team. And like you said, Bernie, that was probably the loudest our dugout was all weekend, and they're chanting, Joey Burgers. That's kind of what everybody calls him, is Joey Burgers, and he's up there, and the whole dugout's chanting, and he gets up there and just rips the ball for a home run, his first ever home run over the fence as well. KJ, I know this is a guy that you liked a lot, but if you had to give a prediction, I mean, obviously I'm just throwing you on the spot, and I don't know that you'll have an exact number here, but how many more home runs do you think Joey Burgess is going to hit in his career?
Yeah, lately I think he's really bought into what we're doing. You can see his free swing numbers lately have gone way up. He just broke into the night club a couple weeks ago. I know he broke his record last week again. So he keeps breaking his record, and then you see it on the field, him hitting home runs. And we same thing a couple weeks ago with Brennan Bass. I know he homered a couple weekends ago, and that same week he broke his record. So when guys really buy in like that, you see the numbers on the field increase. And I think Joey Burgess could be a 10 home run guy every season of his career. This is a guy who's really bought into that approach. He's big. He's only going to get stronger, and he's already very, very strong right now. So, the ceiling for this kid is very high.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. 100% KJ. I think this guy could be one of the best home run hitters on the Bears, but I thought a great story from a guy who we talked about on the top 50 prospects list last week, Joey Burgess getting his first career home run there. So very, very nice. I went ahead and looking at the fall season so far. Again, this is our first full weekend, but we've gotten, some of our teams have gotten to play like 7 or 8 games in the fall. And I went ahead and there are 12 players in the Bears right now who have a minimum of 10 plate appearances that have an OPS over 1,500. And I kind of want to go through this list and talk about some of these guys. And I want to start right at the top of this list with 11U Floyd Lucas Closter. And again, this is a team that a lot of eyes are on right now, making that transition from youth prep to youth baseball. They're getting thrown in the fire right away. And Lucas Closter has emerged as the star of this team so far. I mean, when we go through this list of names, it is all superstars on this list for the most part. I mean, it is superstar after superstar. And then you see Lucas Closter right at the top, a guy that maybe a lot of people don't necessarily attribute with the word superstar, and he's up there with an over 1500 OPS. And KJ, I want to start with you. This is a guy I like a lot. He's big, strong. It feels like, as a family, they've really bought in to the Bears. What do you think of Lucas Kloster? And do you see him as being the MVP of this team, at least in the short term?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of Lucas Kloster, and he's a guy, he's very raw, but he's very athletic. And swinging hard has never been a problem for Lucas Kloster. Sometimes at that age, it's tough to get them to swing hard, and that's never been a problem for Lucas Kloster. But the problem has been, keeping his head down, being a little bit more in control, and so he's really honed that in, not only in the outfield but also at the plate. All facets of the game, Kloster seems to have gotten a little more mature, um, as we've gotten here out of youth prep and into youth baseball. Yeah, I'm excited for Lucas Kloster. He's a guy you could definitely build that team around. He's a guy who's bought in. So I'm a big fan of him, and he's going to be great for that team.
Yeah, this weekend he was 4 for 5, 2 doubles on the fall season. He's got a 1714 OPS, and like you mentioned, KJ, only 2 strikeouts so far in this fall season. And strikeouts, I wouldn't say they were a problem for him. He was close to a 30% strikeout rate over the course of the summer, but he's gotten that down below 20%. And this is a guy who, when he makes contact, it's loud contact. So if he's not striking out and also still hitting for power, like I said, he's got more base hits and strikeouts this fall. So a great start for Lucas Kloster. I think it's been very, very impressive. Going through the rest of the names on this list, I do want to touch on a couple of them. Harrison Blabaum, an MVP candidate every single season. He's no surprise on this list. I do want to go to the next name, though, Diego Buccio, who's got the highest OPS so far on the 13U Floyd team this fall. Hit a home run this weekend. This guy, it just seems like he's starting to mature at the plate a little bit. And, Cage, I want to go to you again. Tell me about Diego, and do you think this has just been a hot couple of weeks for him, or do you see a change he's made from the summer to the fall?
You really started to see it at the end of the spring. He's a power hitter who's swinging for the fences, and he wasn't striking out. And that's a very rare thing we've talked about before on here. But he's still swinging for the fence, and it's always been for Diego is keeping that head down. And again, he broke his record in free swing, and then he comes out and hits a home run. And it's like, this is, when you really buy into the free swing approach, and then you start getting it, and then you start adjusting to it, it happens in the game. And so he's been hitting consistent. I think his record's around 85 in free swing, but he's hitting consistent 80s. And for a 13U player, that's pretty good. So you can see it in the game. He's making consistent. When he hits it, man, it's always hard contact. And especially at that age, if you're making hard contact, it's a better chance than not, than you're going to be on base. So he's always batting towards the top of that order. And he makes hard contact, and he's starting to really put it together, hitting some home runs.
Let's talk about the 3 14U Floyd guys who are on this list. Brendan Bass, Lucas Wilburn, I think no surprises there. Jack Kester joins them as well. Again, we've talked about him a lot. So 3 14U Floyd guys who make this list. There are 2 15U Floyd guys who make this list. Landon Nickerson, who I think is the obvious one. Everybody expected him to be here. But Andrew Driscoll as well on this list. A over 1,500 OPS to start the fall. And Bernie, this is a guy who has worked really hard his entire Bear career, but he's always been known as a defensive guy and a pitching guy. And now it seems like his bat's starting to come along. Bernie, I don't necessarily think he's going to keep above 1,500 OPS all fall season. But do you think this is more than just a hot start for Andrew Driscoll? Do you think that he's starting to find something here offensively that he's really, turned himself into a 5-tool player?
I mean, yeah, Andrew Driscoll's one of those guys that, personally, I know we all like to root for. Kind of, he's been here a long time. I think he's bought in since he's gotten here. He's in free swing, I believe, basically every month. Yeah, he's been here for a long time, man. He's bought in. He's one of those guys that we talk about that is a smaller frame guy that can hit for some power. And we're starting to see that this fall. And I think that, I don't know if it's necessarily 1,500 because that's among the elite guys. That's guys like Landon Nickerson. But, I think he could sit around something like a 1,200, 1,300, and be someone that steps up, in that like 6, 7, 8 hole for that 15 Floyd team.
Yeah, and he's a guy who it's easy to keep him in the lineup because he's so good defensively. And it's one of those things that I think Rob would even if Andrew wasn't hitting well, Rob's going to keep him at short because of how good he is there. So if he's hitting, that's a bonus. And right now, he's been the second best hitter on that team this fall. So very, very impressive stuff. I do want to talk about the one non-varsity guy on this list. There's only one guy on this list who's not on a varsity team, and it's Eric Latrania, who's had a very nice fall season so far. I believe he hit 4 doubles on Saturday this weekend, just crushing the ball. KJ, this is a guy who, again, kind of like Andrew Driscoll, was kind of known for his glove for a long time. He was known as the defensive first baseman, and now he's out here really hitting well. What have you seen from Eric Latrania in the past couple weeks, and do you think this is a hitting profile that he can sustain over the course of the fall?
Oh yeah, I think Eric hard if you look at his metrics. But it's finding that consistency, and I think it's finding some confidence. And I think he's in a spot right now on a team right now where he can be a star of, and he can have a lot. He has a lot of confidence there. So I think that's a big role in his success. And if he's gonna stay on that team, and he's still gonna be around. I think there's no reason to say that success comes to a halt soon.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. Eric's been on the Bears for a long time, and it's nice to see him really taking a leadership role, even even if it's not necessarily a verbal leadership role, but just lead by example role, where he's showing, there's a lot of new guys in 15U, and he's showing them how to take at bats. He's crushing the ball into the gap, swinging hard, and hitting for some power. So I thought very, very nice start for Eric Latrania. And then to round out the list, 3 names that, again, no surprise that these guys are on here: Tegan Kreitler, Brendan Nickerson, Mac Floyd, to end out the list. So 12 guys there who have kind of been the hottest hitters of the fall so far. But let's go ahead and talk about the pitchers from this weekend. We had a lot of very good pitching performances. Mentioned a couple of them already: Andrew Willeret, Andrew Driscoll, Lucas Wilbur, and Lucas Velchek. We kind of talked about all those guys. But a couple more that I kind of wanted to touch on. Starting with ZZ Garcia. And I think he's kind of getting put in a position now where he's got a much bigger role on the pitching staff than he had in the summer, and a very nice outing against the toughest team 13 Floyd played probably all fall season so far. ZZ Garcia, 4 innings pitched, 8 Ks to just 2 walks, threw 70% strikes on the mound. KJ, I think this is a guy that you're kind of looking for to be an ace caliber pitcher over the course of the fall. What did you see from ZZ facing a very good offense?
Oh yeah, this is a team that put up almost 40 runs on Saturday before we played them. And so, but ZZ came out and he attacked them. I mean, it seemed like every single count went 0-2 to start. I mean, just pumping strikes, throwing strikes with his fastball, throwing strikes with his curveball. I mean, he was throwing strikes with everything he had. And he's throwing hard. I think that's been a big thing for ZZ is the inconsistency of what we're going to get from him when he pitches. Sometimes he goes out there and throws strikes, but he's not throwing hard, and he gets hit around a little bit. And then sometimes he goes out there and throws hard, but he's all over the place. So I think this is the first weekend, where I've really said, if ZZ Garcia is my ace, I'm very comfortable with that. The way he attacked a really good team, and kept us in the game all game long.
Yeah, he had it all. He had the curveball. He was throwing hard, but also throwing strikes. I thought it was by far the sharpest we've seen him. And I think this is a launching pad, don't forget that last weekend, ZZ was playing up at 14U, throwing from 60 feet. This was his first real outing at 54 feet as the ace, and he was dominant. I thought he was fantastic. I mean, again, I don't think that team, I mean, they average 2 strikeouts per inning. I don't think that team has struck out eight times in 4 innings, probably all season long. And ZZ Garcia made it happen, and he was just gross on the mound. I know the other team had a good pitcher on the mound as well, and it was a pitcher's duel for a while in that game. And ZZ really held his own. I thought it was a very impressive outing from him. Bernie, want to go to our summer Cy Young, Logan Eckert, who was fantastic in his first 2 weekends of the fall. He's now 10 scoreless innings from him this fall. I believe he's got 13 Ks as well, something like that. It's more than 10 Ks on the mound. Logan Eckert, I mean, say what you want about him, say he's just a strike thrower, but now he's pitching on Sundays now for this team, and he just continues to dominate, and he just doesn't allow runs, Bernie. What do you think about Logan Eckert? I know we've talked about him a lot, but now he's on Sundays and he's still doing it. So what is there to say about Logan Eckert so far this fall?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, he's going out there every Sunday now. He's going out there and he's still not allowing runs. I mean, um, his 10 innings, 0 earned runs, and the strike thrower that everyone claims him to be has 13 Ks in 10 innings. So I think he's just really grown as a pitcher, being able to use multiple pitches in the zone, and now we're starting to see the strikeouts go with the no earned runs.
Yeah, I mean it's very, very impressive. I mean, he's the Summer Cy Young for a reason, and I think now, obviously, him being 15U, now he's competing for the high school Cy Young award, and obviously there's some big names in that conversation. I think Logan Eckert's going into that Cy Young award race as an underdog, but I definitely don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he could win it. Did want to throw out some names here. These guys are all precision pitching guys who I thought had very nice outings. Rookie Hunter Finley took the mound this weekend, threw 83% strikes on the mound, had 2 Ks in a scoreless inning. I thought a very nice performance from him. Josh Collier, 62% strikes, 3 2/3 innings, 3 strikeouts, just 1 walk. Very, very impressive. Brendan Bass, 2 scoreless innings, 3 Ks, no walks. Santiago Story, 4 1/3 innings pitched, 7 Ks, just 1 walk, 0 earned runs. Andrew Engelken, 5 innings pitched, 0 ERA, 3 strikeouts. Dylan Graham, 2 innings pitched, 4 Ks, 1 walk, 0 ERA. Max Sandler, a precision pitching guy who's a rookie, 5 innings pitched, 67% strikes, 0 walks, and 2 strikeouts on the mound. Very, very impressive outings. Bernie, of those names I just read, any of those guys that you kind of want to expand on?
Yeah, I'll expand a little bit on Josh Collier. Kind of a guy like ZZ. He's been in precision pitching for a while now, and we'd see these flashes where he'd go out there and throw a no hitter. He'd go out there and have 4 innings, no hits, no walks, 10 Ks, and then his next time he'd go out there and he'd walk the first 2 or 3 batters of the game, and then get taken out of the game, have a very quick outing. But so far this fall, just even outside of this weekend, he seemed like a guy that's honed in a little bit, became a little more mature on the mound. He's kept the walks to a minimum this fall so far, and I think he's going to keep getting his opportunities on that 13 Floyd team.
Yeah, he's been super reliable, and I think that is not a word that you attributed with Josh Tyler's pitching for the last year. He was a guy who was either going to go out and dominate, or you were going to have to take him out in 3 batters because he wasn't throwing strikes. But I think, besides Caden Inman, I would say Josh Tyler's been the second most reliable pitcher for this 13U Floyd team so far this fall. And I think it's very impressive to see kind of the growth that Josh Tyler's taken. And I think he's got even more upside than he's shown so far this fall. So very, very impressive. Want to look at 2 more guys again who are precision pitching guys with very nice outings. Alex Ruppel is a guy who was kind of being overshadowed. He played for 14U Floyd. That's now 15U Floyd for the most of the summer, and kind of was given a backseat role. Didn't get a whole lot of innings on the mound. When he did pitch, it was usually in non-competitive games. And now he's on that Driscoll team where he's the ace. And he's the guy to go out there and pitch on Sundays and deal. Here's Alex Ruppel's pitching line, and Bernie, gonna throw this one back to you. Tell me if this sounds like an Alex Ruppel line, or tell me if this sounds like a Mac Floyd type line. 4 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, 0 walks, no earned runs. Alex Ruppel, again, kind of like Logan Eckert, was more known as a strike thrower. 7 Ks, no walks, 4 innings, no earned runs. Alex Ruppel, really, really good. Bernie, I know this is a guy who's been in precision pitching basically every single month, in the last 2 years. What have you seen from him in precision pitching that has led to this success on the field?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I think Ruppel before was kind of known as a guy to go out there. The no walks is not surprising me. He's always been a guy go up there and pound the zone. But 4 innings, I use in that realm of a person to go out there and get 3 or 4 Ks in those 4 innings. But yeah, just in precision, he's been able to his curveball. I mean, I think you have to put up there in 60, 70th percentile of precision pitching curveballs. I mean, it's very good. His changeup to me has always been one of his best pitches. It's very, I mean, it's upper third of the Bears easily, if not even better. And just be able to utilize all those 3 pitches, knowing how to sequence, against these good teams, and just be able to go out there and do what he does.
Yeah, and he's definitely, at this point in his career, he's definitely not a soft tosser anymore. There was a long time where he was one of those guys that's going to throw slow strikes. I believe his precision pitching record is mid 70s now, right, Bernie?
I believe it's 75. If I'm correct.
Yeah, I mean, 75 as a freshman is no joke. I mean, this guy he's not a soft tosser, and he's got a great set of off-speed pitches. This guy's really doing it all on the mound right now. Very excited to see the season he's able to put together now that he's in that position where he's going to be trusted to go out there every single weekend. One more outing I did want to go ahead and talk about, and this guy is pitching for that 16U Burn squad, and they were facing a team that they were definitely an underdog against. And Sam Dollins goes out there and shuts them out. And it was a team that, again, I think 6U Burn was not expected to win this game. This is a team that has played 6U Dalton close in the past, and 6U Burn goes out there, beats them 8-0 on the back of this Sam Dollins outing. KJ, wanted to give you a chance to talk about this one. On the course of the weekend, Sam Dollins, 6 innings pitched, 5 Ks, 1 walk, and a 0 ERA. Again, pitching against a very good team. This is a guy who back in precision pitching for this month, and I think we've been able to work on some of his control problems to really hone in. And he 5 Ks, 1 walk, 0 ERA. KJ, this is a guy who I know in the BWL. You were impressed by his pitching outing, and he comes out here against a very good team and is able to go ahead and throw a shutout for the win. What do you think about Sam Dollins, and what do you think is the kind of progression you could see his fall season taking in the course of his pitching?
Yeah, Sam Dollins is another guy I think that really thrives around confidence. And on a team like 16U Burn, Sam Dollins is going to be one of the top players, and he's he should feel a lot of confidence in being one of their top dogs. So, but yeah, in the BWL, he was a guy, he threw much harder than I anticipated him throwing. And he can throw strikes. So, if he gets going for that team and he rides the confidence he has right now, I think he could be a big time pitcher. But it all goes back to consistency for him. A lot like Eric Latrania, I feel like consistency with the back, consistency with the arm. But the confidence he has right now, I think he's going to flourish.
Yeah, 100%. I think this guy is very, very high ceiling type pitcher. And if he's going to be a guy that is going to average 1 walk per start, that turns him into from a good pitcher to that ace category, that we talk about. The aces and the bears are the guys who get Ks, but also don't have to get a lot of walks, and I think Sam Dollins was definitely ace caliber this weekend, and I'm excited to see if he can keep it up going forward. To go ahead and end the BBN After Dark, I did want to touch on a couple of our Bear teams and kind of get your guys' thoughts on what you're looking for them in the next couple weeks. Specifically talking about our young varsity teams, 11U Floyd, 12U Birnstill, and 13U Floyd. And I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on what do you see these teams over the next couple weeks? What are you looking to see from these guys? Starting with 11U Floyd, this is a team, again, very young, still very inexperienced. KJ, wanted to start with you here. For this team to really take a next step forward, I don't necessarily know about necessarily a win and loss record, but what do you think they need to do on the field to really take that next step forward?
Yeah, I think for that team, the superstars need to be superstars. They're not a very, I wouldn't consider them a very deep team. But I think if the superstars play well, they're going to have success. And guys like Owen Dobrinsky, guys like Lucas Closer, we talked about. They have a couple new guys. Owen Haynes has shown out a little bit. Dominic Ahern hasn't really got going yet, but he's a great player. So if the superstars are being superstars, I think this team, definitely has a good season. And we don't like to talk win and loss record necessarily, but I think they could win a bunch of games if the superstars all get going.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, KJ, that when the superstars get going, when those guys like Ahern and like Owen Haynes, when those guys really catch fire, it's gonna build everybody else up around them, to where the role players are also gonna start playing well. And this team, I think they've shown a lot of potential. They've played some good games with very good teams, and I'm not sure going into the fall, I wasn't sure this team was ready to win yet. But I think they've impressed me so far that they're developing quicker than I thought they would. And I think they've got a very solid pitching staff, which, I think a lot of 11U teams I think they're going to have the pitching staff advantage. I don't know if they necessarily have an ace yet, but I think as the course of the staff, they have a pitching staff advantage. I think this team defensively, especially on the infield, has been more impressive than I kind of anticipated. For me, it's about depth of lineup and getting guys over the course of the lineup all to hit at the same time. Want to go ahead and move on to 12U Birnstill. This is a team that I think, Bernie, you can disagree with me. I think this team has the pieces, but I think we don't know which pieces are the key ones yet. I think you look at this roster and even a couple guys on the Smith team. I think you look at this roster and the pieces are there, and it's about finding which of these guys is going to take that step forward into a leadership role, into a superstar role, and which of these guys are really going to own their jobs. But Bernie, in my opinion, I think this team has the talent to be a winning team, or at least has the work ethic to be a winning team, and it's about just putting it together on the field. But Bernie, give me your thoughts on this 12U Burnsville squad, and what can you see from these guys over the next couple weeks to really take another step forward?
Yeah. For us, that Harrison Blabaum's going to do, Harrison Blabaum things, week in and week out. But it's just who's going to be the guy to step up around him. Owen Lewis, he's put together a very good season. Especially those 2 months in May and June where he was, an MVP candidate, but he hasn't been exactly that same hitter since. So you're looking at guys like him, like Cale Taylor, who's had flashes, Brody Wilburn, rookie Trey Vonderhaat. I put him in a big role, and I have a lot of confidence in him to step up for our team. Just Ben Nichols, even. I mean, a lot of guys here that around him would step up. Even some of his rookies. I mean, Hunter Finley. How fast can he develop in the outfield? He's looked very good out there at times, but he still gets these bad reads on balls. Rudy Montenegro Langley, rookie we haven't touched on too much, but I think he could be a big power bat in the future. With the offense, just trying to find guys around Harrison Blabaum, to contribute to the team consistently, without just these flashes that we've seen from some of these guys. And the pitching staff, I think it's well known that has been our Achilles heel for a lot of the season. And, just finding guys on the mound who want to be up there, who want to buy into our program and go up there and throw strikes, is a big key for us. I mean, at the end of the summer, I talked a lot about how we beat all the teams I thought we should have beaten, but we didn't necessarily beat that many teams that we shouldn't have beat, if that makes sense. Just going out there, I feel like when we play these teams that we view as above us or better than us, we start to lose our confidence. We lose our approach at the plate, and we play on our heels instead of playing our game.
Yeah, and I think Bernie made a lot of good points there, and I think it's one of those things that these guys, especially toward the bottom half of the team, they just got to buy in, man. They got to go up there with some confidence. A couple guys who I think lack confidence on this team, Rowan Damschroeder, who we've seen at times has been a top 4 hitter on this team. When he's confident, when he's going up there hitting, he's hit some balls as far as anybody else on the team. Parker Cates, I think, is a guy who I like a lot and has a lot of potential. And I think when you put those two guys with the rookies, Connor Kennedy, Rudy Montenegro Langley, Hunter Finley, Trey Vonderhyde, you've got the pieces there. It's just about putting them together. But I think this team, all things told, this team's had a very nice season as a whole. But I think for them to take that next step to where they're a top team, I think 1, they've got to get deeper in pitching staff, and 2, they got to deeper in lineup. And I think the pieces are there for both of those things, for these teams to really step up. So I'm excited to see what 12U Burnsville does over the course of the season. And let's go ahead to end the show, move on to 13U Floyd. This is a team with a super high ceiling, and I think the question with this team has just been about consistency, especially on the offensive side. I think this team is still trying to figure out the pitching staff, but I think this team's bread and butter always going to be the offense. And KJ, want to give you a chance to talk about this one. We've seen guys like ZZ Garcia and Diego Buccio who've kind of been superstars all season long. But besides that, it's about finding consistency with this offense. What do you think about this 13 Floyd team, KJ? And what do you think are the steps this team needs to take over the next couple weeks?
I think this is the first time, that this team has shown flash of guys who can come up from bottom teams and contribute in a big way in a while. We had a couple years ago, ZZ Garcia and Diego Buccio come up and now are our best players. And we've taken, a couple seasons off from having that. And, I think the advantage that some other ages have, like the dominant ones of 15U and 14U Floyds, 13U Floyd hasn't had the depth. But I think recently there's a couple guys, man, that have stepped up. Owen Wybrecht, who is a new guy, has really stepped up in a much needed outfield position. He stepped up and he's playing great out there. Georgie Buhazen, he started every game at second base this weekend and he didn't come off the field. And this is a guy who's pretty new to competitive baseball last season, and he actually wasn't a very good hitter last year on the Burn squad. But what he gives you on defense, what he gives you in the dugout, his presence, he's positive and he's exactly, what I believe, the team needs. And it's a spark plug like that. And you kind of saw it this weekend, we competed with some very, very good teams. And, I keep telling them, we're not going to out-talent many teams, but we can out-depth teams. And if we stick to our approach, we can beat teams better than us. And that's been our big thing, I think, all season long. It's beating teams better than us. If you came to the games, we're not really bigger than any team. We don't have that big hard thrower. We don't have that consistent home run hitter. But we got some scrappy guys and guys to step up. And so this is the first time in a little bit I've been excited about some of the depth pieces that this age has.
Yeah, and KJ, I would say besides Garrett Knight, when you look at this group of the first-year players, the rookies, and also the second-year players like Georgie Buhazen, I'm not sure if there's necessarily a superstar there, but there's a lot of interesting guys who could come up and be starting caliber players. You mentioned Owen Willebrecht in center, you mentioned Georgie Buhazen, but guys on the second team, like Jacob Lowry, like Carson Warner, guys who are still super, super raw. But if they really buy in and they really are going to put the work in, I could see these guys being starting caliber players. There's not necessarily that guy that you look at like a Jack Kester who's just coming in and hitting home runs over the fence. There's not that guy at this age. But I think there's a lot of interesting pieces that I'm really, I think this team is going to be just fine over the course of the fall. I think this team's only going to get better every single weekend. I think the pitching staff's going to be more mature over the course of the season. I think you're going to figure out the lineup over the course of the season. But man, I'm really, really excited to see what this age looks like in the spring when you have a winter full of, 23 guys who are just hungry and are going into the winter just beating each other out for jobs. And I think this team is going to be a different beast when it comes to the spring. But over the course of the fall, I think there's a lot of potential for this team to really get back to being dominant. This team's been good. They've been good all season long. The question is, are they going to be a great team over the course of the end of this fall? And I think there's the pieces for that to be the case. We mentioned Josh Tyler, who stepped up on the pitching side. I think he stepped up offensively as well. You mentioned Georgie Buhazen, who goes into this game on Sunday facing, KJ, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Georgie Buhazen has seen a pitcher even near the caliber of the pitcher you guys face on Sunday. Is that fair to say, you think?
Yeah. Never.
And Georgie goes up there and battles and puts a ball in play. I mean, this guy was mowing through some guys, getting some strikeouts, and Georgie was able to put a ball in play, and that was a huge thing for him. A guy who goes up there and plays above his skill ceiling. One of the phrases I feel like I use a lot, especially, is guys who hit for more power than their body would show. And I don't know if Georgie necessarily has gotten there yet, but he's the guy that strikes me as a guy who is going to play above his talent level. Garrett Knight is playing above his talent level right now. I think, even other guys on the team, I think, are playing above their talent level right now. And I think this is a team that is going to figure out their guys over the course of the season. I'm very excited to see how this team develops over the next couple of weeks. So, unless you guys anything, I'll go ahead and open up the floor. Bernie, do you have any final thoughts about either this weekend or next weekend? Any thoughts before we end the show?
I mean, not really. It's excited to see what this fall brings here. First week of games back, felt good.
KJ, any final thoughts before we end things?
I'm excited to see some. I think this is our first weekend we've had a big amount of home runs in a little bit, so I'm excited to see more power.
Yeah, 100%. It was fun. I mean, it was fun having basically, I believe on Sunday, basically all the Bear teams were in the same place, except for, 18U and 6U, they were playing over at Fenton, but I think all the younger teams were all in the same place, and it was very fun to go around. I got to see, let me think, I got to see in person games from obviously 14U Floyd, 13U Floyd, 12U Birnstill, 11U Floyd, all three of our 15U teams, Driscoll, Latrania, and Floyd. Is that all I got to see this weekend? Smith. I got to see a game from Smith as well. So that's 8 different teams, and I was only at Grand Slam all weekend. I didn't get a chance to swing by Fenton during the games. I was at Grand Slam from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. both days, basically. So I got to see games from 8 different teams all in the same place. It was so much fun to see games on all different fields, and I'm very excited to watch more games this fall than maybe I got to get a chance to in the spring. But KJ, Bernie, thank you once again for joining on for BBN After Dark. I know that this is a show that both of you really wanted to get on the ground. I think Bernie, especially, you were even in talks of getting a show like this started, earlier in the spring, where we just had a chance to talk about all the games over the course of the weekend. So I'm glad that we don't have to worry about a time crunch. We don't have to worry about, getting a bunch of views or anything. We just get to sit in here and talk about all things Bears because we really are passionate about it. But of course, our normal BBN show is going to be on Friday, and I'm very excited to see that hacking time with all these home runs. But KJ, Bernie, thank you once again for joining me. But this has been the BBN After Dark, and I thank you all for listening.